There is no Maria Carrasco. We checked, and we had somebody else that has connections down there double checked, and the person doesn't exist.
Case file language is rarely dramatic. It is flat, procedural, almost bureaucratic by design, which is exactly why 5 words buried inside a recorded police interview from Eddy County, New Mexico, hit as hard as they do. There is no Maria, not a suspect, not a witness, a name investigators say never existed at all, invented, according to authorities, to explain where an infant girl had supposedly been living for the better part of a year. Hold that detail for a second, because it's the visual that should stay with you through this entire case. Picture a name with no paper trail behind it, no birth certificate, no phone number that connects to a real person, no address, just a name, repeated by 2 parents, built to fill the silence where their daughter should have been. This is the Dark Discovery Files, and the way we work is simple. No speculation, no dramatization of pain that isn't ours to dramatize, just the documented record, the interview transcripts, the autopsy findings, and the timeline as investigators reconstructed it. If that's the kind of true crime you're here for, evidence first, conclusions last, consider subscribing before we go further, because this case has a lot of paper trail to walk through. Here's where it starts. According to relatives who later spoke with detectives, Briana Stallings gave birth to a daughter in August of 2023.
Now let's get into it. According to Briana Stallings, this baby was born in August 2023. Her family says that Briana sent a few pictures, and then nothing. No doctor's appointments, no updates, no baby. When family asked to see the child, Briana actually blocked them.
For a brief window afterward, there were photos.
Here is a relative. She told police how it all started.
Well, she contacted me and showed me that she was pregnant. So with that, sent her the number wherever she lived and stuff. Well, then she ended up moving back here to Carlsbad, I guess with her Ruby sister for a little bit. Okay. I was living with her for a while, and then I guess she met this guy. And after that, I kind of talked to her, but not so often. She met that guy. I mean, the last time I saw her was at Walmart. She was still pregnant, and she kind of acted like weird, like towards me. Then after that, she had the baby. Ruby was there when she had the baby. I didn't I didn't know. I just said, oh, okay, cool. Well, she's sending me a picture of the baby. And she told me not to show anybody yet. And that's when Ruby had pictures and Ruby showed me.
A few images sent to family, the kind any new mother might share. And then, according to those same relatives, the photos stopped. No updates. No pediatrician visits mentioned. No further pictures. When family members pressed for more basic things, like whether the baby had made it to her 3-week checkup, they say Briana grew evasive, citing transportation issues, missed calls, appointments that supposedly kept falling through. Then, according to relatives, she blocked them. Not one platform. All of them. For almost a year, that's where the trail in this case effectively ends, at least from the family's side. No video calls. No new photos. No birthday updates. A baby who, on paper, had been born into a family that loved her, and who then seemed to vanish from every channel that family had to check on her. Now here's the question worth sitting with, because this is the moment the story stops being a family dispute and starts becoming something a courtroom would eventually need to address. If a newborn disappears from every form of contact for nearly a year, and the explanations keep shifting every time someone asks a follow-up question, at what point does "she's just busy" become a welfare concern serious enough to call law enforcement? For this family, according to the record, that point arrived when an unrelated social media post surfaced, a separate law enforcement appeal out of another jurisdiction involving an infant's remains.
That is when relatives told them about a Facebook post, a baby girl found dead, thrown in a lake. Here's Briana's cousin describing finding that post.
Ever since she had her baby, she kind of just blocked everybody and didn't want to talk to nobody. That's what made me worry. It made me want to call you guys to kind of figure out and see what's going on, because that night, the other night, I was sitting at home and I happened to open my Facebook and I saw a post from Abilene, Texas, which was weird because I don't even follow nothing in Abilene, and it was Detective Scott pretty much stating that they needed help, that they had just found an infant baby which was a baby girl that had been found deceased, that had been there for months. Seen the baby. I've never personally seen the baby myself, neither has my wife, but the baby was born because my mom has pictures of her in the hospital when she was born.
Okay.
But ever since that day, there was no sign, nothing, no pictures on social media or nothing of the baby since then from that to now. And then we're all blocked, so we can't see nothing else.
I was at home, we were at home on a Wednesday night, and I was getting ready for bed, and I just happened to get on my phone and scrolling through Facebook, and I had saw a post from Abilene, Texas, which I have nothing to do with Abilene. And it popped up and it said, infant baby found deceased thrown by a lake. And for some reason when I read that, like I had a weird feeling of like God was telling me, like, hey, you need to speak up, you need to do something. So automatically in my head I thought of her.
It wasn't connected to their case, but for relatives who hadn't seen their niece or grandchild in months, the timing was enough to push them past hesitation. They called the Eddy County Sheriff's office and asked for a welfare check.
Well, they don't want to post it yet. And I was like, okay. After that, I would keep in touch with her. She went home. I would ask her how the baby, so like back in my mind, like I felt like I always had to help her, like because or get on to her to do important things. So like the baby was 3 weeks, and I said, hey, have you took the baby to the doctor? And she's like, no, I keep calling BCA, but it goes to Roswell. And I was like, that's the main number you have to call. They'll switch you,
They'll set you up
in Carlsbad. And she was like, but I don't have a ride to Roswell. And I was like, Briana, no, they'll set you in Carlsbad. And she was like, okay. And then she said, I've tried to call, but they sent me to Roswell. She didn't get it. So then she would say, will you call for me? And then that's when my husband kind of stepped in. He was like, Brianna's old enough, she needs to take care of her and her baby. And I, kind of felt guilty at not calling for her, but I didn't. I let her take care of it on her own. I talked to her the week after, and she said she did take the baby to the doctor to get 3 week that PIQ. Okay. You know how they get, that's what I said, you need to check to see if the baby has jaundice, right, and all that. And she said, okay, she said she did. All of a sudden I wrote her on Snapchat, and she never opened it. I was asking her how the trip went. She never opened it. So then I contacted her on Facebook. It was a couple weeks later, and I said, I don't know if it was like during Halloween or maybe near there, but I asked her if she was going to dress the baby up for Halloween, and all of a sudden I got blocked on everything.
The family says they had no choice, so they called police. Eddy County deputies did a welfare check first. They needed to see why
Deputies went looking for the couple. They found them at a trailer park.
Police tracked the couple to a trailer park. Officers knocked on the door. When Briana and Manny stepped out, they had a story ready.
You mind just keeping your hands on your pocket for me? You're good. No worries. Hey, so I'm Detective Johnson, by the way. Sorry.
Adam, Charles, Zebra, all 5-7.
Did you? Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, you guys know why I'm out here trying to talk to you guys?
It's because I heard, I guess my family said...
Call 204, translating the RPT.
Transferred or somebody over there at 1108 North Guadalupe, same street, or something like that, and talking to his family.
Do you know about what?
I guess
Carlsbad, call 214, please turn 2016 Gray
Because it said that they reported her missing and
so that's why I'm involved as a detective, you know what I mean? Just because stuff like that gets passed on to us. So that's what I just gotta figure out and make sure of, just because of all the information I've gathered right now. We do have some concerns, but obviously now that I'm able to talk to you guys, I'm hoping we can clear all that up. And okay, so where's your baby at right now?
she's with a friend.
Where's that?
In Juarez.
In Juarez? Okay. Who's your friend in Juarez?
And according to recorded interview footage later reviewed by detectives, Briana Stallings and her boyfriend, Manuel Guen, had an explanation ready before anyone even asked a direct question. The baby, they said, was with a friend, a woman named Maria Carrasco, living in Mexico. Briana told detectives she didn't have a way to easily get in touch, that Maria sometimes lost phone service, that they communicated mainly through messaging apps when service allowed, that everything was fine, that this was just a temporary arrangement while the couple got back on their feet financially. It's the kind of explanation that sounds plausible exactly once, the first time you hear it, before anyone checks it against anything else. Investigators separated the couple, standard procedure, and asked each of them the same basic timeline questions independently. And this is where the story started to fracture. Briana told detectives the arrangement with Maria had begun roughly 2 months earlier.
Yeah, I've heard so she can take care of me because I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. Okay. Until I get back on my
And what did you say her name was?
Maria.
Maria what?
Carrasco.
Carrasco. Is she from Carlsbad, or how do you know her?
She's from Juarez.
She's from
Yeah,
Juarez?
we met in El Paso, and then she took it from there.
So how'd you guys end up? So when did that happen?
That happened.
Manuel, in a separate room, placed the same handoff somewhere around the beginning of the year, months apart from Briana's version.
When did you hand her over to Maria? 2 months ago.
Then detectives talked to Manny.
Okay, so in terms of the babies in Juarez, when did that happen?
About a couple months ago.
What do you remember, like roughly the day or the month?
Mary 161 Carlsbad.
Probably like
161.
Beginning of the year? Like
Can you
maybe
generate
like
me a
what
card for the 300 block of Montclair
month? Like February?
for the AC complaint?
I think.
You think so? Probably like beginning of the year though, probably for sure like January, February, March, somewhere in there. Yeah. Okay.
Briana said 2 months, but Manny said January, February, March. That's a 6-month difference. Detectives separated them. They brought Manny into an interview room first.
Not a minor discrepancy. According to the interview record, when detectives pointed out that gap, neither parent had an explanation that closed it. Bones don't move. Timelines do, and only when somebody is bending them. That's the refrain to hold on to here, because it's going to come back twice more, and each time it returns, the gap between what was said and what was true gets wider. Detectives kept working the discrepancy. They asked for details about Maria, her last name, her address in Mexico, how the handoff physically happened, how the couple planned to get their daughter back once they were, in Briana's words, back on their feet. The answers came slowly, inconsistently, and according to the case record, didn't hold up to basic verification. Investigators checked for a Maria Carrasco matching the description given. They cross-referenced through contacts with knowledge of the region. According to the interview transcript, no such person could be located, not under that name, not under the details provided.
When detectives talk to Briana, they tell her straight up, her story does not match Manny's.
Briana, we need you to just be truthful with us. A lot of the stuff you said is just not making any sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to wrap our minds around the kind of the lack of concern you're showing. I mean, we just need the truth. We need to make sure Kalani's okay. I mean, we get it. Stuff happens. You know, people go through hard times. We understand that.
That isn't true, but then maybe he's part-time on this,
Why would he be telling us that stuff?
I don't know.
So at the end of the day, you know more information than we're telling us. Why won't you tell us?
No, that's all conversation. I'm telling the truth.
When did you drop Kalani off?
2 months ago. You know.
So not almost a year ago. That's a huge difference. Don't you think that's a little bit kind of troublesome? You don't think that's troublesome when we've got a small child and mom says it was 2 months and possibly, I mean, not necessarily dad, but he apparently considers Kalani his own, and dad says almost a year ago. And you don't see anything wrong with that? Why, you know, it's kind of a little bit of alarm, you know, wanting to find out where Kalani is? I mean, we got plenty of time to figure this out. And we're going to find out where Kalani is. I mean, we've got to find out where Kalani is. Because these stories are just changing. I mean, you're leaving your child with somebody you barely even know. You don't know how to get a hold of her. You don't know her birthday. You hardly ever even talk to her. She lives in Juarez. You can't even remember where you dropped your child off. The stories are changing. Manuel's story is completely different. But you don't see a problem with that.
Then the detective dropped a bombshell.
In Mexico, there is no Maria. Detectives said it to Briana directly, on record, after the verification came back empty. And according to the transcript of that interview, that single sentence is the moment the entire fabricated timeline collapsed. Briana stopped repeating the story about a friend I.
We just want your help, Brianna. We're not saying, accidents happen, whatever happened, but we need to know. We've obviously went through some hard times, and kids can just compound that. There's a few times when my kids were little, I would daydream, what would it be like to not have these kids?
Briana finally broke. She stopped talking about Maria. She stopped making excuses. Instead, she told them what she says happened that night.
According to investigators, she shifted to a different account entirely, one that placed the events not in another country, but in a vehicle on a night when, she said, the baby wouldn't stop crying. She told detectives she had taken medication after giving birth, that she was exhausted, that she fell asleep beside her daughter instead of returning her to a crib, and that she woke up to find the baby unresponsive. She said she attempted CPR. She said she panicked. She said that's why she never called for help in the moment it would have mattered. It was, on its face, an account of a tragic, preventable accident, the kind that does happen, that traumatizes parents in genuinely complicated ways. Investigators treated it as exactly that possibility, for a while. According to the record, after Briana described where the burial site was located, she agreed to lead deputies there.
When we were going to sleep, I was tired, and after I gave birth and all that, I got depression pills. So I would take those, and when that time happened, I took that, and I took allergy pills. Okay. So whenever that happened, because the whole car thing, I know I said that, but the actual thing was we were in the bed, and I slept over her. Okay. And I didn't wake up because I took the allergy pills. Okay. Or because she kept crying, and I didn't know what was wrong with her, because I would give her bottles, and I don't know and then I would pat her back, because sometimes they have gas, right? Sure. And I don't know what it was. She just kept crying and crying and crying, and they say put skin to skin, so she was right by me for a while, and then I was like, maybe I should just keep her here, but I didn't think, to put her back, and put her in the crib or wherever, So I left her there with me, and when I fell asleep, I woke up this morning, and I was trying to give her CPR because she felt cold. I didn't know. I freaked out, and that's what happened. Okay. And I didn't call, and I should have called.
Briana then agreed to take detectives to where the baby was buried.
So we kind of got a good understanding of what's going on, okay? You're not in any kind of trouble right now. We want to do what we can to help you, okay? With, I guess, you being willing to help us as well, okay? Would you be willing to drive up to Queens right now and kind of show us where we need to go?
I don't drive.
You're going to go with us? Yeah, you're okay going with us? Yeah. How'd you get here? Manuel?
Yeah.
The remains were recovered from a wooded area outside Carlsbad, wrapped and buried beneath rocks.
At the burial site, Briana walked ahead. Then she stopped, and she pointed.
That right there, where the light's on.
Don't worry about me. Got it.
Standing right here where the rock's at.
Where the rock is? Where the rock are? I'm sorry?
Where the big old rock is right there.
The one right in that hot spot.
Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah, she's buried in
That one just sticking out there like a big old pimple.
with all those big spaces.
She's underneath the rock?
Yeah, she's underneath it.
Those rocks.
Yeah.
Try to take your light off for a second so you can do. What's that? These rocks right here. Yes. Okay. I marked it.
At that stage in the investigation, Despite the recovery and despite the admissions already on record, both Briana Stallings and Manuel Guen were allowed to leave. No arrest.
We had tried doing the CPR, but nothing was working.
Despite what seemed to be a confession and the burial, detectives made a calculated decision. They let this couple walk free. No arrest. Not yet, anyway. Over the following week,
investigators were waiting on one thing the family's story couldn't fake: an autopsy. Here's the thriller movie question this case actually earns, because it isn't manufactured tension. It's the literal position investigators were in for the following weeks. What happens when the only witness left who can contradict two parents' story is an infant who can't speak, and the only voice she has left is whatever the forensic evidence says on her behalf? The autopsy answered that question. According to investigators, toxicology results showed the presence of fentanyl in the infant's tissue, a finding that, given how the body processes and clears substances over time, indicated repeated or ongoing exposure rather than a single isolated incident.
At the station, detectives sat Briana down for another interview. This time, they had the autopsy, and they started with the drugs.
They did do an autopsy, and they had her for a bit. So she did test positive for fentanyl.
When detectives asked Briana directly whether she used fentanyl, she denied it. When asked whether Manuel did, she said she wasn't aware of it during their relationship. According to the transcript, investigators pushed further, noting that for a substance to remain detectable in an infant's tissue across that kind of time frame, exposure would have needed to be sustained, not explained by a single overdose event the way an isolated car seat tragedy might be. Bones don't move, and in this case, neither did the forensic timeline, no matter how many versions of the story the parents offered. Then came the skeletal findings. According to the autopsy review described in the recorded interview, the infant had sustained multiple rib fractures, along with an injury to her leg, and at least one of those injuries showed signs of healing, meaning, according to investigators, that it had occurred before the date of death, not during whatever final incident ended her life.
To be honest with you, I don't do nothing with that.
Then the detective told her about the bones. They had the baby's injuries, multiple fractures, and some of them were healing, meaning they happened before she died.
When we reviewed the autopsy, there were also some injuries to her bones, and one was before she had passed. Do you know why she would have injuries to her bones, to a rib, or to her leg?
That detail matters enormously in any criminal case, because it reframes everything. An accidental single tragedy doesn't typically come paired with older, healing fractures. Those require a separate explanation. And for weeks, neither Briana nor Manuel had one to offer. It's worth pausing here to be precise about what we know and don't. At this point, according to court records, no conviction has been entered in this case. Briana Stallings and Manuel Guen have both been formally charged, but charges are accusations, not verdicts, and under the law both remain entitled to the presumption of innocence through whatever judicial process follows. What we're describing from this point forward are statements investigators say were made during recorded interviews, statements that, if accurate as transcribed, are deeply incriminating, but statements that a court, not a true crime narrator, is ultimately responsible for weighing. Months after the initial interviews, according to the case record, detectives brought Briana back in for a follow-up conversation, this time armed with the completed autopsy findings. They walked her through the fracture pattern. They asked, directly, whether anyone had ever harmed her daughter intentionally. According to the transcript, Briana initially resisted answering, then grew visibly distressed, and eventually told detectives that on one occasion, when the baby wouldn't stop crying for an extended period, Manuel Guen became overwhelmed and sat on top of the infant in an effort to make her stop.
What happened? Did he hurt her on purpose?
She said this happened the same day as the rib injuries.
And then Briana broke.
So what happened that day that he got really upset? She was crying and he grabbed her leg.
Just because you tell us what happened doesn't mean we're not gonna tell him what you told us. We want to give him the same opportunity because we know it's eating him up too.
We just want to make sure he's telling the truth.
Yes. Injuries don't lie, Briana.
She told investigators that after he did this, the baby fell silent. In a separate room, according to investigators, Manuel was shown the same autopsy findings. According to the case record, he subsequently admitted to grabbing the infant by the leg and, separately, to having sat on top of her when she would not stop crying.
Opportunity.
So what were the 3 injuries? One was the knee, and what were the other 2?
Ribs.
Ribs, and what else?
Multiple ribs.
Multiple ribs. Multiple rib fractures. And a knee.
To me, was grabbing her upside down. And the ribs were him sitting on them.
Okay.
Like, you know?
He sat on her.
Because she was crying? How long was she crying for?
The body always speaks last, and it speaks the truth even when the people who were supposed to protect it choose not to. Both Briana Stallings and Manuel Guen were taken into custody following those interviews. According to court records, Manuel Guen faces charges including intentional abuse of a child and tampering with evidence. Briana Stallings faces charges of conspiracy to tamper with evidence and tampering with evidence. And in a detail that tends to frustrate viewers of cases like this one more than almost anything else. According to the record, despite the recorded admissions and the autopsy findings, both defendants were released after posting bond, a standard but uncomfortable feature of how pretrial release works in cases without prior criminal history, regardless of the severity of the alleged conduct.
In another room, detectives showed Manny the same autopsy results. According to investigators, he finally admitted to what he had done. He told them he grabbed the baby by the leg, yanked her, and when she wouldn't stop crying, he sat on top of her. Both were taken into custody. According to court records, Manny faces charges of intentional abuse of a child and tampering with evidence. Briana faces charges of conspiracy to tampering with evidence and tampering with evidence. But despite the confessions, despite the autopsy results, both walked free on bond.
That's where the public record currently leaves this case. Charged, released on bond, awaiting whatever comes next in the New Mexico court system. No trial date discussed here, because none has been verified for this video, and we're not going to manufacture a timeline the documented record doesn't support. What we can tell you is what made this case different from 1,000 other tragic infant death investigations: the fake name. Investigators didn't crack this case through some dramatic forensic breakthrough alone. They cracked it because 2 people, independently questioned, couldn't keep their story about a non-existent woman straight. Manuel said January. Briana said 2 months. Detectives checked the name. The name didn't exist. And once that single thread came loose, the rest of the fabricated timeline came apart with it. If you want to verify any of what's been described here, this case is part of the public record through the Eddy County, New Mexico court system and the Associated Sheriff's Office case file. Publicly searchable through the county's district court docket under the names Briana Stallings and Manuel Guen. We'd encourage you to read it yourself rather than take any single source's word for it, including ours. And here's the question we'll leave you with, because it's the one this case keeps circling back to without ever fully answering. A welfare check, a blocked phone number, a fabricated friend in another country. How many of the warning signs in this case were visible to people around this family for months before anyone called for help? And at what point does watching someone go silent become its own kind of evidence? If this case affected you the way it affected us putting it together, like this video, share it with someone who follows true crime the way we do. Evidence first, no embellishment. and subscribe to the Dark Discovery Files with notifications turned on, because we're tracking this case as it moves through the courts, and we'll be back with the update the moment the public record gives us one.